Hi there, this is Phil Simborg, and I am one of the principals of the Backgammon Learning Center, and I have with me one of my teaching partners, Marty Storr. Say hello, Marty.
Hello, Marty. Oh, hello.
Proving that you don't lose your sense of humor just because you're a good backgammon player. The reason we're here today is over the last few days I played several matches, and I played lousy. Much worse than my normal PR. And usually when somebody plays bad, it isn't because they just got stupid all of a sudden. It usually is because they have seemed to be unlucky enough to get into challenging positions or types of games or positions that they don't personally understand that well. So I went through all my matches, they were recorded, and I came up with some of the more challenging and interesting problems, and I can promise you Marty has not seen these. And I'm hoping that Marty gets them all wrong. It would make me feel a lot better. I suspect that he's not, because I know he's much better than I am. He's one of the few players in the world that plays under 3.5 PR. He's registered on the Backgammon Masters as one of the top 20 players in the world, and he should, I think, get a lot of them, or at least when we see the answer, he'll have a really good explanation. But you can play along and see how you do with these 6 problems. 5 checker play problems, or 1 cube problem, and you can always pause this recording if you need more time. They're all from matches, so look at the match score. You ready to go, Marty?
Yep.
Okay, let's hope we don't embarrass you too much. The first are all checker play problems, and the first problem, this is set the stage. It's a 7-point match. I'm red. I'm holding a 2 cube. And I'm winning 2-0. That sets the stage. I'm on the bar, and I have a 1-5 to play. Now I'll be quiet, and while you think about what play you would make, Marty can think about what play he would make. Then we'll look at the answer and hear about why the answer is the answer. And by the way, every single one of these I got wrong. So give it some thought, and I'll shut up.
Okay, so
I'm going to help everybody play the 1. We'll do that first.
Yeah. So the problem is simply to hit or not. So, and then if you don't hit, you have to decide whether you're going to play. You're going to move a checker to your 5-point, or you're going to come down to your 8-point. There's no point to slotting the 3-point or the 1-point, obviously. So, you know, it's tough to hit in a position like this because, you know, a hit is sort of counterindicated by Paul McGreal's safe versus bold criteria. So I'm thinking like, okay, if red hits, then that abandons the defensive anchor and it leaves many return shots. You know, blue will hit back if possible, and almost all of blue's rolls do hit. 5s, 4s, and 3s hit on the 1-point. 6s hit outside, and 1s hit on blue's bar point. And what's left is double 2s, which hits on the 2-point. Only double 6 does not hit, which fans. So now that, you know, red is not busted if red doesn't hit back. You know, if blue hits back, red is not busted at all. There might be a direct return shot, but red has got a lot of consolidation to do if red hits. Now, if red doesn't hit, then okay, blue is free to move, and then blue will just be a favorite. But it looks like red is going to be an underdog no matter what. So the question is, you know, how much of an underdog and how many gammons is blue going to get? Now, blue's obviously going to get a fair amount. Got a stronger inner board, and then if red gives up the anchor, that's a lot of defense lost. I think that, you know, red would be doing pretty well just to, you know, recover the anchor and, you know, might have another checker back as well. Yeah, it's kind of... So I think I'm going to play like a wimp here and play 10 to 5. It's not that Red's chances are all that great after that play. But at least Red maintains some defense, and still has a little bit of pressure on Red's back checker. So all right, so I guess XG is saying that's correct.
1 for 1, and wonderful analysis. Over the board, I did not hit, but I played 13-8. And why is 13-8 so much worse than?
Well, 13-8. At least 10-5 does two things. It duplicates blues ones to cover the bar point and make a 5-point prime. And it also slots the 5-point. And it slots a useful innerboard point. Red hopes to quickly make a good innerboard, and if things go badly for blue, and an early hit might have some punch if Red's got 2 or 3 points on his board at least. Also, by playing 10-5, it makes sixes into a relatively bad number for blue. 6-1 is good. 6-5 and 6-4 are pretty good because blue can point on the 1 point. But the other sixes are not so good, like 6-2, for example.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. Great job. 1 for 1. Let's go on to number 2.
Period. I think fewer ways to send the third checker back or the fourth checker back.
All right. So you immediately ruled out hitting because of the bold safe, and then as a process of elimination, saw that the 5 points better than coming down to the 8. Very good.
And also one more thing about the position is that Joe Sylvester came up a long time ago with, offense, defense rule, which is if you're set up for defense, you're likely to want to play defense. And here that means, Red is playing a defensive game more than an offensive game. Offensive game, he's boarded and doesn't have, abandons his anchor if he hits. So defense would seem to be the way to go. And so, it's often, when you're set up for offense, you should play offense. If you're set up for defense, you should play defense, and keeping the anchor is the best move.
It is interesting to note that at DMP, hitting with the OK is probably slightly better because you don't have to worry about getting gammoned at all, but you get gammoned a lot more, and that's the real rub of that play, as you said. Okay, very good. Let's go to number 2. And again, Marty has not seen these. I sprung it on him tonight. We didn't even know why we were getting together. So, okay, play number 2 that I messed up, a 2-1. And of course, again, it's the same score. It was the same game later on, and the 1 comes in hitting. So the only question really is, where is the 2? Do you hit with the 1, and where does Red play his 2?
So, all right, this is interesting because now at this score, gammons count emphatically. Now, blue has only got a 2-point board. Tactics are always important. So, if Red were to think negatively and think, okay, I would like to save the gammon if I lose, then Red might lift the blot on the 5-point. But that looks to me to be very much the wrong idea, because the point is slotted. It's a key point for Red's winning chances. So I'm going to say leave that checker on the 5-point. As for the 2, okay, so Red can play. It looks like there are 3 reasonable 2s if you rule out lifting the 5-point blot. One of them is just go out to the 18-point, try to increase outfield coverage. The other is moving off of blue's 1 point, which has the immediate benefit that, you don't get pointed on with a double 1 and face a 3-point in the board from blue. It's not very big of a benefit because blue will still shift points, make the 3-point on your head, and come up to your 2-point. Okay, so I don't really like that. I think for last-ditch shots, the checker on the 24-point is well placed. Now, at some point, that checker may be more valuable as an assassin in the outer board, covering territory and hitting, aiming at blue as blue tries to come into the outfields. But for now, I think the checker is better off on the 24-point. And that leaves the last play I'm thinking of is just to slot the 2-point as well as the 5-point. Just go 4-2. And the benefit of that is if blue misses, then that's a really good. It's good to have both of those points slotted because you're almost certain to make one of them. The only roll that doesn't make something, let's say if blue stays on the bar with 9 numbers, would be 6-5. Because 6-6 could cover the 2-point, and 5-5 could cover the 5-point, but 6-5 doesn't cover anything. So everything else does, 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s. That leaves only rolls with 6 and 5 in them, so only 6 and 5 in them. We've accounted for 3 of those, or 2 of them, I mean. So the other 2, it's only 6-5. So, and then if blue hits on the 2-point, right? Recall that if you leave the checker on the 5-point, you've got 15 ways to hit there, plus a good double 1. If you put the checker on the 2-point, he's only got 23 ways. So you're giving 8 extra ways to hit in return for a possibly good slot of the 2-point. Because your most important point to make is your 5-point, and then after that, the next most important point is your 2-point. And given that blue only has a 2-point board, it might be if blue hits, then the third checker back might be valuable in catching blue's runner as it comes around the board. So, and is it going to increase red's gammon chances very much to be hit on the 2-point? Maybe a bit, but probably not so much. So this is what my gut is telling me to do. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say swap the 2-point for the 2.
Okay. Slotting the 2-point was not on my radar. It wasn't any one of the plays that I even considered, and it's the right play. So you nailed it again. You've already given all the reasons why you would do it, and it's right by a lot, and I was shocked. It just didn't even occur to me. And this is just a very good illustration of why you're one of the top 20 players in the world and I'm not. It didn't even occur to me over the board, and then after I saw it, I was surprised. And I started thinking through the reasons, and I couldn't come up with anywhere near all the good reasons that you did. So,
can we see anything? Can we just see what ++ says about moving to the 18-point with the 2? Because I know sometimes 4-ply and ++ are apples and oranges. I just want to see. Okay, yeah. So it's not quite as. It's all about the same as going to the 22-point. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Good info.
Nice work. You didn't mention one thing that after I saw it occurred to me is that you're unstacking a heavily stacked point.
Right.
And maybe that's one of the reasons it's so big. Maybe
red is not set up very. Red is not at that flexible position. So in that case, a slotting move that So you're unstacking the checker and you're bringing it to a place where it might do some good. That's a valuable thing to do. So that's
sure. And look, and when we unstack it, now you slot the 1 point, unstack the 3 point. So this is a real good illustration about stacking and unstacking. That is also part of the reason.
Yeah, you're right. You just look at the number of ways to make another point. After each of the plays, you've got if you slot the 2 point. That I'm not sure this is the original position. I think maybe
no, that isn't. This is the original.
Yeah. So the stack is got 5 on the 4 point. So so it smooths your distribution. It makes it more likely that you'll improve your board.
Yeah.
So okay, good point about the unstacking.
Yeah, and well, I have to give Nietzsche credit for that. His new book about coming off the mountains. I like the way he says that, and I'm using that term quite a bit. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Very good work. You're 2 for 2. 6-5 to play. Not a complicated position, not a complicated score. It's 7 away, 6 away, cube in the center, and red to play 6-5. So again, for those of you watching this, if you want to think through it yourself before you hear Marty's thoughts, go ahead and pause the video, and then you can continue. So, Marty, what's your thoughts here?
Okay, so red it's going to be about an even race after red plays the 6-5. So that means that in effect, blue's going to, in the pip count, blue's going to be ahead a little bit. Going to be ahead by 1 pip and on roll. But the other thing is that, blue has got 2 checkers back behind a 3-point prime. So, that means that blue may not be able to conveniently enter a race, but it's not too unlikely because, 3 points a row, there's still, blue still has a good amount of ways to escape a checker. Can any 6-4, or can make an advanced anchor. Can anchor on the 22 point, or with a few rolls can anchor on the 20 or 21 point. And no matter what red does, it's going to have to leave. Looks like at least 10 shots. So red could say, "All right, I'm going to break my anchor and run 2 checkers." And the trouble with that is it leaves 24 ways to hit. Right. That's all. A 4 and 3 double shot is 24, but double ones doesn't work, so that makes 23. But there's double 6 remotely hits on blue's 10 point, so that makes 24 again. So there's 24 shots, and if blue misses, then red's kind of happy to get the checkers out from beyond the 4 prime. But it's very risky because if red gets hit, there are a lot of gammons floating around. A broken 5-point prime, a 3-point board versus red's 1-point board. It seems prudent to keep the anchor. So I would not want to run in this position. It just seems to me to be too risky. So now it looks like there are 3 besides that play. There are 3 candidates. So the most positionally desirable one would be 13-7-8-3. So that's trying to make the 3-point, trying to maintain a pure position going forward. And this leaves a fair number of shots. It's any 3 and plus combinations makes 14. And then in addition to that, you have double 2s, 4-2 and 5-2. So that makes 19 total. So blue has 19 ways to hit, but then if blue hits, that's not the end of the world at all. Especially if blue hits with a 3-5. Then the 5 is a concession on blue's part. He has to play 13-8, it looks like, breaking the midpoint. So 2 of those 19 are not so terrible for red. But it looks like all the other hits do not involve any concessions, because double 3s can be used to make the 10-point, which is a good point. And the back checkers would be on the 21 point, would be on red's 23 points, ready to escape. So this would be the pure play. You know, leaving 19 shots, but trying to make the points in as good order as possible. Okay, so an alternative to that would be, I haven't decided what's best yet. So they'll be to lead. You know, you play 13-7, but instead of 8-3, you play 6-1. Now 6-1 leaves only 11 shots, and it has a good builder distribution over the 6, 7, and 8 points. So it's not as pure a play, but it saves 8 immediate shots in return for putting a checker deep on the 1 point. It also unstacks the 6 point and leaves a better distribution. Okay, so that's the pros and cons of the. But it doesn't try to make a useful point 3 point. It just is saying, okay, I don't want to be hit. I do like the good builder distribution, and maybe the builders come into play over the next couple of turns. Okay, now there's another play which is just make the 1 point on blue's head. Just red can just make the 1 point, and the good thing about this is this leaves fewer than 11. It looks like it leaves 10. Am I right about that? It leaves 7 4s, double 2s, 7. Oh wait, maybe it's more than 10. Let's see, it's 10. 7 4s, 5 2, and 2 2. Yeah, it's 10. Okay, so this leaves 1 fewer shot than coming down and hitting loose on the 1 point. And it gives blue a few more ways to stay on the bar. 4 numbers now stay on the bar. And then red can attack. Maybe, attack on the 3 point, or maybe make the 4 or 5 point. Or at least just remake the bar point and play from there. So that's another.
Marty, would you do all of this analysis over the board in an extra?
Yeah. I know the pros and cons. I would assess these pros and cons very quickly over the board. Instead of talking and saying, okay, there's 10 shots here, 11 shots there. I can count in my head a lot. I can talk.
But this is your thought process, though. You would have
gone my thought process. And now there's another play. There's another idea, which is which I'm a bit skeptical of, which is to come out and hit loose. But that looks, I don't really like that for sort of the same reasons.
Come out and hit loose where?
Well, you can hit on the 3 point and say, all right, I'm duplicating 3s to hit inside and outside. Or you can minimize shots. Well, you wouldn't minimize shots maybe at all. I'm not sure, but if you hit on the 1 point, you'd be saying, all right, I'm gonna. But I don't like this. I'm gonna reject these plays coming out and hitting.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say that's tough. I guess there's still another option, which is to break the midpoint. Just break the midpoint, and then you're leaving 14 shots. 11 aces, 6 4 and 4 4 makes 14. So this is saying, okay, I'm not gonna put any checkers deep in my board or semi-deep in my board. I'm not going to put a checker on my 3 point or my 1 point, but I am going to give up my midpoint. But if I guess maybe I haven't left any ball inside, and maybe I can do good. But midpoint is a useful point for holding games. So it puts pressure on his midpoint. So this is tough because if you give up the bar point, if you make the 1 point, give up the point, You're really unhappy if you hit those numbers. You're really happy if he stays on the bar. That's counter.
Well, I'm already happier that I missed this because I could see it's not easy for you either. So whether you get it right or not, I feel better. I feel better.
This is a tough play because, there's so many things to weigh.
Uh-huh.
If you get a bar point and you hit the 1 point, you're sort of okay. You don't like that. The 1 point positionally good. 1 point is tactically good. To say making the 1 is not as big a concession as it may seem to be. Making 1 point by itself is not such a bad thing because you're using one of the checkers from the 6 point stack anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Marty, how long have you been playing backgammon?
Since 1975. So.
Okay. Back in 1975 and 80, you would never dream of saying the words "it's not so bad to make the 1 point," would you? You really changed with the times, haven't you?
Yeah, I didn't. I sort of didn't learn. I didn't learn my lesson that the 1 point isn't so bad until maybe the early 80s or so. Sometime in the early, I'm not sure. By 1983, the 1 point is fine. I mean, by then I could talk myself into make the 1 point, although I still didn't like it.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I remember seeing a match between, I think it was Roger Lowe and Paul McGreal, where I think it was Roger Lowe had, they're both Mayfair players. McGreal needs no introduction. Roger Lowe was one of his proteges at the Mayfair Club in New York. And Roger Lowe played an early double 5. He made the 3 point with one checker from his midpoint, one checker from his 3 point. But with the fourth 5, he hit McGreal loose on the 1 point. And that seemed to him, no doubt, to be a combination of good positional play, hitting, attacking a checker on, making a 3 point, and then tactical play, hitting loose on the 1 point. You only put one checker on the bar.
But today you would certainly make the 1 point.
It was better to just make the 3 and 1 points because of the chance that McGreal would stay on the bar. 9 numbers versus 4, it's a big increase. 25%, and 4 numbers is only 11%. So more than double the chance, and so
yeah. Well, now we can be sure. Now we can be sure because Extreme Gammon is telling us it's okay to make the 1 point. It's actually better. So we've all converted. So what's your play? What's your play here?
Okay, so what's my play? It's tough.
Continue down.
It's still very tough. I've already rejected breaking the anchor. And I could keep all my points and just hit loose somewhere. Or I could say, all right, I'm going to go for the immediate tactics because that seems to be a good way to win the game. Or, keeping all points is sort of hedging your bets. Just saying, okay, I haven't broken any valuable point, but I have hit somewhere. I'm going to reject, 13. So I'm going to say, this is tough. So I would be inclined, over the board, I'd be inclined to make the 1 point. So I'm going to say make the 1 point.
Okay. Let's look. I'm so glad you struggled with this. I feel much better.
Yeah, so it looks pretty bad, huh? So 13-7-6-1. Yeah, that's...
Well, you came up with the second best play. And I played.
I play a lot.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of difference. And I guess that, in hindsight, we can say that hitting off the 1, again, we're coming off the mountain. You're unstacking the 6 point, which is important to keep your checkers in play. You were absolutely right about not giving up the anchor. There's nothing on this list that shows coming off the 21 point. So you started out in the right direction, and then it got tough. You missed your first one. You're human. You're entitled. You don't play at 0. You play at 3.5. So a little less than 3.5. Coming off the anchor is the worst thing you can do. It's one of the worst things you can do.
Right. It's counterindicated by the safer slow criteria, and you're not even ahead of the race, and you're not even ahead of the pip count after you run. So.
Okay, now let me ask you something else for my own education. after you see this is the right play, are you going to be able to talk yourself into why it's the right play so that you will make this play correctly in the future?
Yeah. Okay. So why it's the right play is simply that you're keeping all your assets, right, which is important, right? The bar point's a better point in general than the 1 point. Okay, and it's and you're giving yourself a good, you're improving your distribution. So you're making an improvement by improving your distribution over your midpoint, 4 point, and 7 point. You're putting a spare on your 7 point, which is valuable. And you're minimizing. You're not quite minimizing shots, but you're almost minimizing shots. I
don't want to.
1 point is one.
I don't want to. I don't want to belabor this too much longer because I want to go on and get the rest of them, and I don't like to have lectures go too long. But very quickly, if you make the right play.
Right. That's okay. So I would, that increases. Hopefully, that increases my understanding of similar positions because I'll remember this. Having gotten it wrong.
Here's something that I want to add, though, Marty. I want to get it pointed here. What most people don't realize, most of my students are intermediates, and what most of them don't realize is after you make a play like this, on your next roll, if you don't get hit, it's usually right to cover that blot. And depending on what else you roll, of course, you wouldn't cover it if you rolled a 4-2 and you could make your 4 point, probably. But once you put that blot on the ace point, you don't just leave it there like they used to in the old days, waiting to get hit and recirculate. And you make the point. So it isn't bad to make it later. That's the other thing. As you said, it's not a totally wasted asset.
That's kind of been known for a long time since the blots came around. But that sort of vindicated. Some players knew that. Like there was a guy named Mike Valentine from New York who did know that. He'd make the 1 point. If he hit loose on the 1 point, he'd tend to make the 1 point very soon. And people would say, "Oh, he's an anti-positional player," but he seemed to do pretty well. So,
yeah. I would put Jim Pascoe in that list as well, and doing what we called anti-positional, and it turned out to be right.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
let's go on. Let's move a little faster, Marty, because we've got to. I want to get the rest three in, and I don't like my videos to last too long because people lose interest. All right, number 4. So that was a tough one, and I understand why. Okay, number 4. I showed the answer, so we're not going to do this. I made a mistake, but again,
I think I would have gotten.
Drives me nuts.
I think I would have gotten this anyway.
Really? You wouldn't make a prime here? Why the hell wouldn't you make a prime?
Well, it's called locking the barn door after the horse is gone. I could do is say, okay, what about if you make the 1 point, red makes the 1 point, what's the probability that red hits a blot next turn?
Yeah.
The only forced blot, the only number that leaves a direct shot is 6-3. Okay, 6-3 leaves direct shot, and it leaves 14 plus the extra 9s, which looks like 16. So but that's only 2 numbers. 5-4, blue's just going to break the 6 point safely. And is there anything else? No, it looks
yeah.
5-3, 5.
I see it. I realize now why I showed the answer. I wasn't going to include this one because after I saw it, I understood it completely also. I just didn't see it over the board.
Yeah, it's just a matter of counting shots over the next turn or two, and you can make a pretty good estimate. And you can say, okay, the pressure on blue's midpoint, and then there aren't that many numbers that hit and pass 1-3, 1-2, 1-1, and 2-2 are in that category. Yeah. And the good double.
That's a big benefit to keeping the midpoint, to keeping these 2 checkers here.
Yeah. Any six except 6-6 leaves a direct shot.
Or 6-1. Yeah.
Yeah, any 6 with 6-6. If you keep the midpoint.
Keep the midpoint, right.
Plus 5-2 as well. 5-2 loses direct shot. So that's 12 numbers that leave direct shot versus 2 the other way. And, maybe there's some indirects the other way, but, compared to directs, much.
I see it now. Let's move on. Number 5.
Relatively simple.
Yeah, it should have been.
Okay.
As soon as I saw it, I realized it. Okay, this is 4-away, and the cube in the center and red to play 6-2. Not that complicated a position, but I got it wrong. So again, pause the video if you want to think about it before, Marty. This is analysis.
So this is not that easy for me either. So 4-away. Red can just run. And it's not that the pip count is so much in red's favor, but the chance of getting a checker away safely is pretty good. So there is definitely something to gain by just running all the way to the 16 point. So then there's a very big play, which is to slot the bar point and bring it over to the 11. And that's going to probably win the game if blue misses. So, but there's double ones and double twos, which will keep blue in the game. Double fours keeping the game, maybe.
What about double 3? Making the bar.
Double 3's making the bar. Double 3's making the bar. Well, then blue's structure is worse than red's, and timing is worse because you got to figure red will make the bar. So double 3's is not. It's okay. It's maybe I'd rather have 2-1 or something and split.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you can red can completely say 13-5, which looks pretty ugly. Looks the putting another spare on the 5 point. This would just be in the name of safety. This would be saying, all right, blue may have some problems moving this turn, and so why should red take any risk at all? But I tend not to like plays like this, so I don't think over the board, I don't think I'd play this. I think it would be a choice between slotting the bar and just simply running. I don't think I'd leave a blonde on the 18 point. I don't think I'd do that. I think if you're going to split your anchor, you should probably just run all the way, hope that blue misses, and then you're coming around the corner and pretty good shape. You're not that afraid of being hit loose in blue's board. So, Now the cube. How does the cube come into play? Well, if blue misses, most of blue's misses are pretty bad. After red slots. So, and then the threat of that 5 prime would be good at the score, because if things go badly for blue, red will have a nice 5 prime, and blue might have trouble getting out, and might have trouble with the strip midpoint, particularly in 4 on the 6 point. Blue's behind in the pip count, or ahead in the pip count a bit, so that's bad for timing. So, So,
by the way, Marty, would you actually count pips? Would you know the pip count in this position?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I do cluster counting, so I'd go 52, 68, 103, 151 for red, and I'd go 64, 90, and 138 for blue, 90 and 48. So
you just showed me you're one of the fastest pip counters in the world too.
I'm pretty fast. Jack Kassane was faster, but he's dead now.
Yeah.
So whatever.
You're up there with Kara Davis and Steve Sachs are two of my heroes, and you're up there right with them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know a lot of chunks. You know, I have no price, so I'd count quickly. So I think. So for me, this is between running, like I said, just between running and slotting. Slotting is very big. Slotting may lose if you get hit. You know, but it's not. You're not necessarily dead if you get hit after slotting the bar point. But after running to the 16 point, you're not necessarily dead if you get hit outside either. You're far from dead.
Okay.
So they both have got good upsides. So both those plays have good upsides, and probably slotting the bar has a bigger downside. There's a bigger upside too. So is there anything else that comes into play here?
Your clock is running. What's your play?
Okay, so I'm going to slot the bar point.
You got it right.
Okay.
You got it right.
So that's the DMP.
Huge.
Yeah.
By the way, it's also the money play.
Yeah.
But it's right by a lot. I thought it would be close.
If Jacoby's in play, you know, you don't have to worry about getting gammoned. Blue's not going to double you with a 15-number shot, which doesn't even win if he hits. So this is, so I know maybe the DMP play idea is a good one to, so when in doubt, make the DMP play. Because you keep
there's something else very interesting about this. You brought up one of the very key points. If this checker was here or here, it would be right to play 13-5.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me, because an extra builder, because you might, priming is a game plan, and if you have stacks, that's not good for priming. But if you don't have a stack, as we're seeing on the on XG's evaluation here, you don't have the stack.
Right here, it's very close.
So very close. It's close, and it's
close here, but it's not close here. Why is that?
Well, I think because your timing is worse now, right? Your timing is worse, and so maybe it's the case that a checker you want to play a little safer if you have worse timing, but you need not play as safely if your timing is better by 2 pips on your side of the board.
I see.
I think that might
very good, buddy. Very, very good. So over the board, you would have got the right play on all of these positions except one. And now we're going to look at the final one, which is a cube action problem. And let me bring that up. And I'm learning a lot today. I learned your thought process. And by the way, I did ask a question for a reason. Very few people, except for good players, realize how important the pip count is, even in what seems like an innocuous position like this, where you wouldn't think about the pip count being that critical, but it is. And as Marty pointed out, being down in the race, losing the race is actually better for your timing in a priming game. Okay, now we have I don't know why it says invalid cube, but maybe I did something wrong, but 7 away. And blue is on roll, cube action.
Okay. 7 away, cube action here. Well, all right, so blue is definitely winning this game with a 4-point prime, the 18 anchor, good defense, the direct shot outside, some attacking chances against Red's back checkers, and by the way, 4-2 is nice. I guess 4-2 is nice. You can make the 4 with a 9 point. 9 point's completely safe, though. But on the other hand, well, let's see if blue hits, there will be a lot of return shots for red. And the 4 prime is a nice blockade, but it's not winning by itself. 4 points in a row can be jumped. So what do we say? How many of the hitting numbers are relatively safe? Well, double ones is relatively safe. 4-1 and 5-1 are relatively safe. 1-6 leaves 2 outfield lots. 1-3 leaves. I mean, two outfield lots are relatively vulnerable, right? So, like what did I say? 1-6 would go if the blue hits it all. It leaves a bunch of 6s and 1s back, plus double 2s and double 3s. 17 return shots. If he did play 18 to 17 to 11. That's a lot of return shots. 1-3 would be similar, except it would be more. There would be more. It would be 16, and there's anything else, double 3s and 2s would be 18. If you played 1-3 or 1-2. And then 1-4 would only be 10 return shots. And 1-5 would only be 8 return shots. And red would now have a better board, a 4-point board. Although three checkers back against the 4-point. So, but if blue doesn't hit, blue might just, increase the pressure on red's blots. But although blue has a nice 4', he only has a 2-point inner board, and red can often escape one checker or make the 22-point. For failing that, maybe get pointed on and we get hit outside and roll badly in return and make the 24-point again and play from there. That's not very appetizing, but there are some wins to be had from a position like that. So, and then, the blue's 2 blots sort of trying to be cleaned up. So that means it looks to me that the pip count is rather close. Blue ahead 6 pips, and red is sort of not very good, doing very well in the blocking game, but it has a tactical asset of a 4-point board, and blue's got some blots to clean up, and red might be able to play a 22 anchor game or just escape one back checker. So it looks like that if blue doubles, red is going to take at this score. It's a little, you have to be a little more conservative if gammons are floating around at 7 away than you are for money. But without the Jacoby with rule in effect. But even so, it looks like red would have a fairly easy take if blue did decide to double. So the question is how much of a market loss is blue going to achieve in good variations? So maybe not that much. If blue rolls some kind of joker and then red comes back with a bad number, that would be a decent level market loss. But massive market loss, double 4s fan, double 5s fan, something like that would be massive. But I don't know, double 3s, which would be maybe 13-7 and 18-15 twice, followed by bad number. Let's say 5-4 or something, 2 down, would be perhaps that would be a market loss, but it might not be a huge market loss. So if that's a benchmark roll for a decent-sized market loss, there aren't that many of those. So now the question is it a double for blue? cube in the middle, is it a double for blue? Does blue lose the market often enough? Not only often enough, but often enough by a decent amount. If you've got a small market loss, often, but you don't have a medium to large market loss very often at all, it might not be doubling. But then again, okay, is red going to be a favorite anytime soon? The only way that would happen is if blue hits outside and gets hit back immediately. And blue is not forced to hit outside if blue doesn't want to. There's no law saying he's got to hit with a 2-1 and give 18 return shots. It should be 8 6s, 8 more 5s, double 2s, double 3s, make 18. And then fan, you know. Does that, you know, there's no law that says blue has to risk that. So, if another side of that market loss thing is that blue, if blue doesn't need to, you know, blue doesn't need to have big market loss variations as long as he doesn't have any negative variations to speak of. And he doesn't seem to have very many. So, I'm going to say
so
this.
you're sure red has a take. You're not sure
I'm
blue
fairly
has a
sure
double.
red has a take. I'd be surprised to learn if, and I might be wrong, but I'd be surprised to learn if red had a
Okay. And you're not really sure if blue has a double.
I'm not really sure whether blue has a double. I guess I'm leaning towards a double because.
All right, let me help you a little bit here. I want to help you a little bit for a reason. I want to help you for a reason because I want to go a step further. I'm going to tell you that it's close whether or not you double or not. So you're right on.
I thought so. So
it's close. And so if it's close, knowing that it's close or thinking that it's close, would you change your decision on whether to double depending on the strength of your opponent?
All right. Well, so against a strong opponent, right there, you know, against a stronger opponent, you're going to want to win a gammon in this position if you can, right? If you're weaker, if you're a lot weaker, then you're going to have to say, this is a good opportunity for me to win a gammon. I might.
Mm-hmm. But you're not a lot weaker than anybody. I mean, if you're playing Mochi, who's the best, you're not much weaker than Mochi. So, you double Mochi?
I can hold my own against Mochi, okay? I'm an underdog for sure, but I'm not a massive underdog, right? So,
but you're saying I should probably double Mochi, and I do.
I would double. Yeah, maybe you should. I don't know. But then you have to sort of think, well, you know, who's going to make more mistakes in this position? You know, it's easier for blue to play this position. You know, but Mochi is not going to make too many mistakes as red, I don't think here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, in technical terms, I'm going to say it's probably a small double. So I would say double take now, because it's
so not, if you were playing a weaker player, would you think about doubling on the idea that he might pass?
I certainly would. I certainly would. If I thought my going to pass.
Let's cut to the answer. Let's cut to the answer. And I don't know why it says invalid cube. This does this to me sometimes when I bring up positions from other situations, because this is certainly a valid cube.
Wrong player on roll.
Yeah.
You have the wrong player on roll. You have the wrong player on roll, I think.
No, I've got blue on roll.
Okay, so it says.
This is wrong. This is wrong.
So, all right. So double. So invalid cube. So why don't you look at the? Why don't you change?
I'm going to just open up. I'm just going to open up another version of XG and put the position in again. And I know it'll get it right because I ran this before and it was just a very small double. Now while we're doing this, let me tell you what happened over the board. I didn't double, and I don't feel too terrible because I think it was a .027 double. But my opponent laughed at me, and we were friends, and I won't say who he was. But my opponent laughed at me and said he would have passed. And thinking, well, that's why I was so interested in this position. If he would have passed, then that is the reason I certainly should have doubled. And I thought maybe I made a big mistake not doubling. But later on, when I looked at it, I saw it was just a very small double. Let's see if we can put it into a good version.
Small double. So. Yeah, and then
okay, now it doesn't say invalid cube. Okay.
I don't know what that's about. I've seen that before myself, and what I did is I just flipped around, double action, take action, flip, and then it would eventually come up and say, oh, this is a
this is right.
Okay.
0.027, exactly as I remember with plus. A very, very small.
Not risking very much. Blue is not. There's nothing where blue is forced to. No rule really forces blue to take a huge risk.
Yeah. And by the way, I tested this. You do not hit with a 1-2 or a 1-3. You would hit with a 1-4 or a 1-5.
Not 1-4 or 1-5. So with a 5-1,
I think you hit with a 4-1, or let's see. Let's give red the cube. Let's see. I think you hit with a 1-4 or a 1-5.
You probably would hit with a 4-1 or 5-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do with a 4-1 quite a lot.
But you don't with a 1-2 or a 1-3, as you said.
But not with a 1-2 or 1-3, which makes perfect sense because like a 1-2, you've got there's 18 return shots, right?
Yeah.
The 3-1, you make a nice 10-point. And 2-1, you make an 11-point and add another builder. And that's well, you've still got pressure. You increase the pressure, and you're not taking any risk. And you've got a two-way, you got a three-way game plan: block, attack, and run. If he doesn't.
Let me close this off because it's been an hour, and that's my limit for these.
All right.
I want to thank you, and I want to congratulate you. You've proven that you're everything I said you are, a great player, and you've proven my faith in why Terry and I, who are the founders of the Backgammon Learning Center, and the other teachers welcomed you as one of our teachers so overwhelmingly, because you're not only a great player, but you explain things so well. I really understand every one of these positions much better, and I understand your thought process better over the board, too. This has been very, very helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in Boston. I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks, and I know you're giving a quiz there, and I'll have some fun. We'll spend some time together, and look forward to learning more from you in the future. I want to thank you.
Thank you, Phil, and I thank you for that position that I got wrong. Where I've learned. I think I've learned something from that. I'll make a reference position out of that for myself.
Yeah, great. Well, if you look at my Facebook page, just today I posted something that you just illustrated. I'm going to go to my Facebook page. I want to show you this quote that I just today posted. Where is it? I'm going to go down a little bit because I think this is very, very interesting. There's some posts here on some positions by Mochi and others. So, here it is, quote of the day. They say experience is the best teacher. Instead, it should be that failure is the best teacher. I found that the best learners are the ones who cope best with failure and use it as a learning tool. Orlando Secchio. And you just proved that. You just thanked me for the one position you got wrong. You're going to use it as a learning tool. You epitomize this quote. I really think very highly of you for that.
And there was a position that was somewhat similar. Oh yeah, it was from the last primetime backgammon issue. I think Paul Weaver analyzed it, and it was a similar kind of position with a 6-5. It wasn't similar, I don't think, on blue side of the board, but it was similar. It was similar. I think it was very early in the game, and blue had a blot on the 4-point or something like that. But the choices were the same with 6-5. Hit on the 3-point, hit on the 1-point, or play safer. And the right play was to hit loose on the 3-point, just because blue's position was a bit weaker, much weaker than it was in the position you gave, where there was a 4-point.
Yeah. But the combination of that plus the other reason we had on the 1-point in this position is because of the stack on the 6-point.
Yeah. Right. And you can, you You unstack, but you do not break the bar point. That's what I learned.
Marty, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.